Hello, and welcome to an intro to Anthro with two humans. I'm human number one, John McCray.
And I'm human number two, John Lehr.
And this is the podcast where we reassess what it means to be human. And the title of this episode is Iron Age House, Living in the Past and the Evolution of Reality TV.
John, oh my God.
We're going to be talking about Living in the Past, which was a 1978 British TV show in which 15 people, including 3 children, lived like people did back in the Iron Age.
Yes, they did. 1978, right?
1978, yeah.
78. Unbelievable.
And the Iron Age in Britain lasted from about 800 BC to the arrival of the Romans in 43 BC.
Yes.
And so the people on the show, they lived like the ancient Celts did in approximately 300 BC. That was around the time period that they were going for.
Yeah.
And John, if I could get serious for a moment.
Oh boy. Okay. Jesus.
I just want to say it is a dream of every academic and every scientist to contribute to the larger body of knowledge of a subject.
Absolutely. People who have watched us or listened to us from the beginning know that our entire goal in life is to get a footnote in somebody else's research.
Or we don't care where, even if it's like, if you're doing it in crayon, please just footnote it, just quote it.
Yes, but we have asked for, as a Zap Dingbat, we want the dagger. We do want the dagger for our footnote, if you will. The
dagger always seems like it's like secret information, like you've had to go beyond just numerals.
Right. That fits us, right? We should be, please give us a footnote, somebody, some academic, and please make it the dagger and get it published. That's all we ask for.
And let us know about it. We will spend a whole season talking about your paper.
Oh boy, will we ever.
It'd probably be like a bad review, like, oh, these guys, the downfall of podcasts or something.
Oh man, with a dagger right in our heart.
But again, it's the idea is that you don't want to just rehash someone else's work, but you want to discover something new or a new way of looking at things.
Right. You want to add to the world, add to the universe.
Right.
Sure.
The humanity's knowledge, I guess.
That's what we're doing right now.
I would say
this is our contribution.
That's what I wanted to say, is that every once in a while we do an episode where, because of our respective areas of expertise, I feel that we truly do add to the overall knowledge.
I do too. And when AI takes over everything, we will be cataloged in some way by the big AI. The one that knows everything.
And this episode, I feel, is one of them. It's one of the because
that puts some pressure on us. Jesus,
I know.
Okay,
I have a background in archaeology, and you hosted "I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here," a reality TV show where celebrities were forced to live in the Australian rainforest.
That is correct. That is correct.
You have done actual...
That's not at the top of my bio, but it is in my bio.
It is in
my bio.
But for our purposes today, I would say you have done actual field work related to this topic.
God, you're right. I hadn't thought of it that way. They had me dressed up in bushwhacker type outfits too, so I looked like an archaeologist. At first, they had me in suits, like summer suits, and then they nixed that idea. But I got to keep all the summer suits.
Did you?
I still wear some of them to this day.
Nice. Very good. But I was thinking, you have observed bipedal primates as they acclimated to a new environment, a new habitat on live TV.
I'll never forget downtown Julie Brown getting put into a vat of, what do you call it? What are those? Leeches.
Oh, my God.
They put her in a vat of leashes.
The one I always remember is Alana Stewart sticking her face into a aquarium with a possum in there.
Oh, God. I couldn't believe she did it. I couldn't believe that. Could you?
I couldn't believe it. But
Yeah.
after you're married to Rod Stewart, like no telling what, nothing, everything is.
That's kind of like putting your face in a possum every night.
But John, I wanted to say, I put your work with celebrities up there with Jane Goodall's work with chimpanzees.
Wow, Lucy, and or not Lucy. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, or Franz de Waal's work with bonobos, Diane Fossey's work with mountain gorillas. Equally groundbreaking, I guess is what I'd say.
Wow. I had no idea you thought of me in that way.
I know.
I had no
idea. I've been harboring it for years.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. I'll take that. I'll take that. Being with Robin Leach, for 3 weeks is, it's not easy. It's not, that's like messing around with a silverback.
I know.
Yeah.
The only difference is you didn't publish. You didn't publish your work afterwards.
Well, yeah, I just aired it live. That was a live show, by the way.
I know.
I fantasized about using up. There was a 7-second delay, and I fantasized about using up the 7-second delay. And then what would I do with the 1 second of time that I had that had to be broadcast?
Try to slip it in. What
would I?
But just to go into a little, if you can describe what the premise of the show was.
Oh boy, that's not easy. Yeah. It was live. It was I don't know, maybe 12 celebrities. They were all like C-level celebrities. Right. The most famous was I guess Stuttering John was on it. Robin Leach, Downtown Julie Brown. Who else was on that?
Alana Stewart, we mentioned.
Alana Stewart.
The model,
Bruce,
Tyler Beckworth or something.
Oh, like Tyler Beckworth, the model.
Yeah.
Bruce Jenner before the transition. And not to dead name Bruce, but gosh, I said Stuttering John.
Yeah, Stuttering John.
A few more. I can't remember.
Did you say Robin Leach?
I said Robin Leach for sure. Yeah.
Did you? A couple questions. First of all, did you interact with them at all?
Yes, I was the only one who from the outside world who did. And that would be in a few. They had these trials called bush tucker trials, something like that. Yeah. Where if they performed certain things, they would get more food or they would get more. Right. It was, and so I would host those, and and then I would interact with the one that they sent up. I guess they would pick the ones to do it. I can't.
To come do the. I think
so. I know I can't even remember that. And then, of course, I would interview them as they left, as they got voted out.
Oh, they were voting them off.
The audience would vote them off. And it was. So those are the only times they met me. It was either, bad news or you had a chance of getting food.
Was it really bad news, or were they probably kind of glad to give them?
Well, look, here's the truth. It wasn't that rough.
Yeah,
they were down. It wasn't like they were traipsing through the jungle. They had an area in the jungle that was their area, and so it was really like camping for a week. I mean, really. They even had people clearing. Australia has like 7 of the 10 most venomous snakes in the world.
Right.
And so they had guys, real, jungle Australian guys finding the venomous snakes and carting them off so that they never got into the camp. Australia basically is trying to kill you. That's essentially what that continent is doing. Anything. I had a little ant land on my arm and I slapped it, and one of the crew said, "Oh, I wouldn't have done that." And I what? And it inflamed to the size of a golf ball on my but they were fine. I mean, they were, you know what I mean? And they were monitored night and day. They had the cameras on all the time, which by the way was the best part of the show, because there was a feed that only the people working on the show saw that was just live of them doing the most mundane things, you know?
Really?
Yeah, like Robin Leach and downtown Julie Brown just talking, sitting by the fire. I don't know. I'm hungry. Me too. Just that stuff. That was the show. And I kept trying to tell him, you guys should just air this feed on Bravo or because it was on ABC. So whatever, you know, some other network, they should have just aired it on.
It was interesting because in Living in the Past, a TV show, they make a point of the fact that the camera crew only came in like 2 days a week.
Right.
So, and I guess maybe at that time tape was so expensive or something. Right. They didn't just let it run all the time.
Oh, well, know, it would have been a hell of a lot better if they'd let it run all the time. Because people do start to just go stir crazy. And, you know, you just put humans together. They don't like each other. And then you make them kind of hungry. Forget about it. You know, they're just like angry.
Were they allowed to smoke or anything, or did they take their cigarettes away from them?
I don't think they were. I don't recall any cigarettes at all. Yeah, I don't think they were. They were taking those away.
How did you get cast for that? Did you audition for it, or they?
Yes. Well, an executive that knew me from ABC thought I would be good for it, and he brought me in, John Sadeh. And he brought me in for it, and I auditioned, and they hired me because they thought initially that this was going to be sort of a comedic take on Survivor. So imagine Survivor, but where the Jeff Probst character is a little bit more funny, making light of it, a different
layer of it, a little meta, maybe.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so I fit the bill on that. And, you know, with my improv background, I was perfect. Yeah. They brought me in. And then like literally right before it aired, they changed their mind completely. And I got a call on my headset. Well, I was on they had the little bug in my ear. As we were on the set getting ready to broadcast the first episode, they said, we want you to change the entire tone. Wow. Do not be funny. Do not be light. Be gravitas. I said that was the word, gravitas. And I was just like, you got to be kidding. I mean, what a way to ruin a show. And
as they were counting you in, it was like, hey.
Yeah, it was like 5, 4. John, by the way, we want to change the tone. Be gravitas. 2, 1. Hi, you're on the air. It was crazy. Just insanity.
Did you have a co-host? Did you have a co-host?
No, I did not. I was solo, man.
Oh,
I held down I piloted that thing in myself.
And what was it like being live?
Being live was amazing. That was the best part of the whole thing. Really? Because, man, nothing will close your sphincter like being live in front of millions of people. I mean, it was amazing. Just the tenseness of it. Because if you screwed up, it was going to go out. You know, that was just the thing. And I discovered that the crew, that Australian crew members, they're very superstitious. And so I would do things like, as they were counting in, I would do things like, I've got a really bad feeling about this show. What? John, no. I'm like, yeah, something's going to happen. I'm telling you, I feel it in audio. And the audio guy would look up at me like, you know, or I would bring a coin on. I'd bring a coin out of my pocket and I said, I'm going to flip this. If it's heads, we're going to suck tonight. If it's tails, we're going to be great.
And it was prime time live for a week, right?
Oh, yeah, I think it was 10 days.
10 days
live, prime time every night.
Right?
Can you believe that? And this is back when people watch TV,
right?
You know, so it was like millions of people.
I was thinking the only other shows that had like live nightly like coverage at that time were the Olympics.
Yep.
The first Gulf War and the OJ trial.
Absolutely correct. That is exact. And the director of our show was the guy who directed the Olympics.
Was it really?
So, yes. Because there were so many cameras and so many complications. And the fact that it was live, they had to bring this guy in. He was the real brains of the operation. He was amazing. Just how cool and calm, and he just would get it. Okay, ready, VCR1, and John, cue John, and get ready to roll in the package. Here we go, and 5, 4. It was amazing. It was just, it was like launching a rocket, to the moon.
Just to watch Robin Leach sitting down there and with his shirt off.
Yeah. See stuttering John try to climb a beehive.
All right, John. So, needless to say, you and I both have something to contribute today to today's topic.
I guess we do. You're right.
In football parlance, I will be Joe Buck to your Troy the Sandman Aikman.
Oh man, Troy. Oh, I love to watch him play, but oh boy, I cannot keep my eyes open when he's talking. The two of them,
the two of them together. Yeah, they play off of each other.
Yeah, it's like the Peanuts parents. The wah wah wah. It's just exhausting.
Just that energy level just going down together.
Yeah.
When they take
How can you take something as fantastically interesting as football and turn it into, right. I don't know.
Yeah. But just turn it off. Turn off the sound.
Grobby toss.
Maybe that's what they're saying to Troy the whole time. Like, more grobby toss, Troy.
More grobby. Okay. Toss. Yeah. When I was
that's too much, Troy.
UCLA.
Take it down.
Take it down.
Lower it, Troy. All right. So I'll tell you where this topic comes from.
Okay.
And that is years ago, I was living alone in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. I was separated, or I don't think I was divorced yet. So it was like 2003 to 2005.
That was a rough time on all of us.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
That period was tough. The whole committee.
Thank you for pulling me back. Thank you for reaching out a hand and pulling me back.
Maybe we've talked about this, but I was the one who got you onto online dating.
I know. Changed my life.
I had to do it. I had to. It was like a drowning man. I had to talk. And you did not want to do it.
No, I was so depressed. At the time. But it was like I had gone under the surface and it was one where you reach down in the water. You reach down the water, you think I'm gone, and then you yank me out of there.
And you spit out the water, you vomit out the water.
And I've been coming back ever since. But I was, the bad thing was I was sober at the time. Mm-hmm. And so there wasn't anything to do with all my depression. So I would just sit around and I watched TV all night. I had insomnia and I just channel surf.
Well, you drank 100 cups of coffee a day.
Yeah. Who am I? I guess I did have some part to play in that. Who am I kidding?
I've never seen somebody use a pot of coffee as a mug.
I have. Everybody at work makes fun of me because I have a thermos, a Stanley thermos that can fit an entire pot of coffee in there. Yeah. It's just huge.
You were the first one who turned me on to caffeine, to coffee. I remember we were in Swenson's Ice Cream where I was working. And I drank coffee with you and I was like, this is amazing.
Every time I when I come in, all the security guards all look at it suspiciously, because it's so big. It's so big. They think it's like a missile or a artillery shell or something.
Yeah. Could fit a machine gun inside there.
But I was flipping through my TV one night and I came across a British TV show where some modern people were trying to live like people did back in the Iron Age.
Yeah.
And they looked miserable. It was rainy and cold, and the show was basically hours and hours of the cast sitting around looking wet, depressed, and defeated.
That's I'm a Celebrity. That was my show, too. That was my show.
That's why it's perfect to have you here.
Why do we like to watch people be miserable? Why is that so exciting to all of us?
We'll get into it in a little more detail later, but experts seem to think that it helps us. I don't know. It's authentic. It's authentic.
It's real. It's real. And I guess it gives us some gratitude that we're not them in some way.
That's one of the things.
As bad as life can be, I'm not those guys.
Yeah. Have you ever been on a reality show? Have you done a singing show? Yeah.
No. Oh, yes, I have. As the Geico caveman, I appeared, this is not too long ago, maybe
Really?
a year and a half ago, 2 years?
Yeah,
I don't know. I was on a show on Fox called I Can Hear Your Voice, or no, I Can See Your Voice. Is that what it was called? I think it was. And it was a competition show where people would come out and sing, and you try to guess, are they really singing or are they lip singing?
Yeah.
Lip syncing. and so they wanted to have the Geico. I guess it was a tie-in with Geico. I don't know why I was on it, but I got paid, and that Geico paid well. And so I did.
Were you singing or were you lip syncing? Or
I was lip syncing. I was lip syncing. Oh my God, was I lip syncing? I'm a terrible singer.
Did they guess? They guessed
right. They got me immediately, and I was off.
But we'll get into it in a little more detail later.
Which was fine. I'm sorry, it was fine for me because I got paid the same whether I got knocked off right away or I went the whole show, and I didn't give a damn. I did my part. I went back and got the makeup off.
That's great. That's great. I don't remember. I'll have to try to look, and maybe we can post that.
I'm sure we can find it.
But the people, what they were doing is they were doing some Iron Age, like you were talking about on I'm a Celebrity. They were doing some Iron Age activity. They would have challenges that they would have to do. So one time they had to make a fish trap or a fish weir. And I remember that when it was shot, which was the autumn of 2000, was like the wettest autumn in British history since 1700 or something.
Oh, Jesus. So they're just in mud all the time.
Right. And it destroyed their fish weir that they had set up was destroyed overnight. Like a storm came up and destroyed it.
Yeah. But didn't they try to herd the fish at some point?
Well, you're talking about the original. At this point, I'm still looking at the one that was shot in 2000.
Oh, okay. Got it. I haven't seen that one.
Right.
I've only seen the 1978 version. Sorry. Go ahead.
So then what happened is one of the things, their blacksmith, they would just look miserable. They were just staring out, sitting around in mud, just blankly staring out. Anybody that's ever been camping and it's rained the entire camping trip, they're just kind of staring out blankly at the woods.
Nothing to do but get wasted or read a book or have sex, basically.
Right. And the guy who played their blacksmith came running out one time, and he was all excited because he had finally made some iron. And I remember he pulls back this little leather pouch that he had, and there, if I remember correctly, there was a golf ball size piece of iron in there. And I remember all of these cast members just stared at it.
That's what you've been doing this whole time?
Yeah.
You made a golf ball? What is iron, by the way? It's steel and something.
No,
steel. No, steel's much more advanced. What is iron?
It's iron ore and carbon. You have to add carbon to it, and then you have to pound the carbon out of it. So that's why blacksmiths are always pounding it to make it, because if you don't get all the carbon out, it becomes strong. Brittle. Yeah. Yeah.
God.
And so anyway, but yeah, they just kind of stared at this and then without saying anything, just went back over and sat down again and stared blankly out.
It makes you just want to talk to people who say that things are worse now than they used to be.
I know.
It was miserable.
Yeah. And that's what the thought I had. I mean, that's what that show, which was in 2000, was when they shot it. That kind of influenced my view of the Iron Age. And even when I went to graduate school and I'd come across, references to the Iron Age or Iron Age technology in textbooks, I'd always think to myself, well, you know what that was like? It was a bunch of 20-somethings sitting around looking wet, depressed, and, disappointed all the time.
It's just like when you go to the Renaissance fair. It's all fun and jubilant and everything. And then you stop and think, my God, the pestilence and it was fun for like 10 people. The rest of the people all had to work to make those 10 people comfortable.
I know. And it wasn't all like jugglers and, turkey legs,
thieves who'd slit your throat.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Dysentery, like smallpox, they don't.
Diarrhea everywhere.
We will, I keep wanting, I will do another show about living history because I was going to talk about living history in this one too, but it's just such a huge topic and just fascinating to me. But you also, that's another one that you were part of the Renaissance Festival.
I certainly was. I certainly was. From 15 to, I don't know, 18 maybe?
Yeah.
I would do it. I mean, I think I did 3, maybe. Yeah, it feels like 3. Yeah. And man, we made good coin.
Did you really?
Oh, yeah. That's where I learned how to do street work, and you guilt people into giving you money. Oh my God. We made so much money. We made like $1,000 a weekend for a 15-year-old back in 1982 or 3 or whatever it was.
That's a lot of cash.
That's a lot of cash.
Yeah.
Remember those days? I was flush. I had that Mustang.
Yeah, you were really something. You were really something.
Damn.
Man.
We'd get we'd spend it fast though. It'd go quick.
But you had a costume too, didn't you?
Yes.
You were costume doing it, right?
Yeah, my mom made my costume, and I was a peasant. The whole idea of our show was that it was a scam. You'd see a juggler, my partner, and he was dressed up in purple and was like he would say, I'm the king's juggler, jester, and I can teach anybody how to juggle. And then he picks me.
Right.
But I already know how to juggle, and that's how we're scamming everybody.
Yeah.
And it was kind of good. I mean, for 15, that's a pretty good.
Yeah, I think.
It's pretty good. And then, but the people who work the Renaissance Festival, I'm not talking about the people like us who were hired to, do entertainment. Talking the people who just pretend to be people and walk around in it. They don't get paid, right? They got pissed off at us. Because my partner Rex was in purple and saying he was and that's a very big deal. You can't just say you work for the king with, there was already a jester who had been doing it for years. And we tried to explain, no, we're scam artists. He's pretending to be. No, they just hated us.
Oh, no. So there was layers within there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It was a full-on LARP. It was LARPing.
You were a day player come in and pretending to be like you were a lead.
Yeah, like I was a series regular. That's right. And I got paid more.
They were probably doing it next to nothing, like just living the lifestyle.
Yeah,
right?
Because they had nothing to offer really except just walk around in a costume that they would make themselves,
So getting back to living in the past or this show, I went back to, I tried to find the actual footage of the show I had seen in 2000, and you can't find it anywhere.
That's incredible because nothing goes away now.
You would think so, but I read somewhere where BBC back in the day, and you would think 2000 it wasn't that way,
right?
But I read somewhere about they lost a lot of their original programming because they were taping over their videotapes to save money.
I have heard that not just from you, but also I've heard that about like fantastic musical acts who did a BBC show. They just taped over it.
It's like, this isn't your home VHS, like these are people want to see these years later.
I know, but the tapes were expensive and they were governmentally owned. This is why socialism needs to be smashed.
You don't have extra tapes to save all that stuff.
Capitalists would have saved those tapes and exploited it.
Years later, they would be like cut together in some, compilation, remarketed, repackaged.
Screw the artist. Because now it's public domain or whatever.
But I couldn't find it anywhere.
Wow.
But I did find a companion book that went with it. Like they had published a companion book.
That's perfect for you.
Yeah, called Surviving the Iron Age. And it came out in 2001, and it talked about how these people had gone to live at an Iron Age site in Wales for 7 weeks.
Jesus.
Yeah. And the premise of the show was that these modern people were going to live like people had lived in 300 BC.
Okay.
But the more I read about this show while I was researching it, the show in 2001, people kept referring back to the original.
Yes, the granddaddy of them all.
Right.
Yes.
And come to find out, the show I had seen was a reboot of a 1978 show called Living in the Past, in which a group of 15 modern people had built their own Iron Age village.
Yes, right. They built it from scratch.
I know.
Jesus.
And they lived in it for 13 months.
Yes. Yes. That is a reality show.
I know.
Right there.
I know.
Yeah.
And the thing is, as a researcher, this was like me going in to dig at a medieval church and discovering a Roman temple underneath it, something even older. And so I went back to look at Living in the Past. I've never heard of this show. This sounds fascinating. And apparently the BBC loves this premise of putting modern people in like a historical setting.
Okay. Good.
And
I do too. I'm with them.
In 2015, they even produced a show called 10,000 BC.
What?
And according to Philippa Jodelka of The Guardian, the premise of that show was to dump 20 volunteers, quote, in the wilderness, liberated from all the tools and comforts of modern life, then film them tripping toward breaking point as they forage for food, make fire, and build a functioning society.
They give them nothing? Nothing?
That's what
Jesus.
That's what they were saying. Yeah.
That's how they train SEALs. I mean the or Rangers or Delta Force whatever.
Right. These are just people that just want to be on TV.
Goofballs like you and me. Oh my God. I'd eat you. I'd eat you immediately. like
the first. Yeah. I mean, what's and action? Ow!
By the weekend. She'd be in my belly.
My stomach's growling. Yeah, that's somehow I'm just gone. I'm just gone from the show.
I eat you immediately and then just try to live off my own urine for the rest of the time.
Well, his wallet's still in his tent. I didn't and Tim Dowling, another critic for The Guardian, said about the show 10,000 BC, he said, the show might not make you hanker for the Stone Age, but it might make you wish you lived in a time before television.
Boy, that's like straight out of Spinal Tap.
I know.
The review is shit sandwich.
So I went looking for the original after that point, and again, you can't
even
find
harder
it.
than the cavemen, though. That's even harder because they passed on knowledge to each other. These people just get tossed out there. It's not even
I know.
It's not even a fair comparison.
I tried to find that one too, 10,000 BC, and you can't find, which also kind of says something about how good the show was or what the ratings were. You know what I mean? If you can't find it anywhere.
I was on a show called News Weasels. You can't find that anywhere either.
I'll go looking for that next.
I have a VHS.
Oh, do you really?
And it is, whoa, is it bad?
But 13 weeks to me, 13 months is a huge production. Huge
production. Amazing. Only socialism. Socialism could pull that off.
I mean, how long was the production of I'm a Celebrity? How long did you do that?
I mean, I think I was on for probably a month total, but that's including like rehearsal and tests and things, and
yeah.
And nothing. Then I bought a house with the money.
Can you imagine being on a show for 13 months, though?
No.
Working on a show that long?
No. Well, I can. Yeah. Well, I am on the shows that I produced myself. I was kind of on a show for 13 months because I would do I would write and then act and then edit at the end. So that would be, oh my God, it was so exhausting.
Right.
But not like that. This is a whole different ball game.
So then, again, looking for the footage, I couldn't find the footage, but I did find a show that was produced in 2007 called What Happened Next? Living in the Past. that talked about the original 1978 show. And it was a documentary kind of, well, where are they now? Or, you know, what happened after they finished this production?
And that's what I saw, right?
That's what you saw.
Okay. Yeah, that is great.
But they did have original footage in there.
Yes, they did.
And that's the only place I could find the original
They had quite a bit of original footage in it, I think. Yeah.
So it seems like it's out there somewhere. I don't know, but you just can't find it to watch it.
Well, my kids could find it. Somebody who knows how to operate the internet could find it. You and I. We just Google and then we're like, nope, can't find it.
Yeah. Interestingly, some of the kids of the people that were on the 1978 show were on the 2000 show, the 2001 show.
Oh, Jesus. As adults?
As adults,
I mean, and actually being in the show?
In the show, yeah.
Oh, like my God.
They said that their parents had all stayed in touch.
Yeah.
All the Iron Age villagers from 1978 had stayed in touch, and they would have reunions.
Yes, they mentioned that in the documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that makes sense. I mean, for a long time, my kids, we were in an infant class, and we all remained friends.
Did you all?
Yeah. It's like
and so that's what, when they went to do the new version in 2000, the producers asked those kids if they would like to do it, and they were trying to, you know, in honor of their parents, or to make their parents happy, they decided that they would go do the show as well. And again, we're going to use this show, Living in the Past from 1978, as a starting point for today's discussion, because it brings up, some people argue that it was the first reality TV show in history. But it also brings up a lot of interesting questions about living history reenactments, the social effects of reality television, and how we arrive at archaeological conclusions.
Yes.
Meaning archaeological theory.
But the first reality shows are sporting events. I mean, that's what NFL football is. It's a reality show. Because you get to know the individual players. They have packages, you know their histories, and then you watch them, you know, each Sunday play this game, which is important, but that's only part of the picture.
Right.
Yeah.
I always try to describe to my wife, she's like, why you get so upset about it? And when you're watching sports or football, because I only watch football.
Yeah.
But that's the whole reason, is that it's not scripted, and it's that authenticity of the whole thing.
Yes.
That, I don't know, it's live drama, I guess, if you...
Any given Sunday.
Yeah.
Yep.
But the British Film Institute, on their website, BFI Screenonline, says, although it is almost forgotten today, Living in the Past in 1978 seems as much a prototype for television's future as an examination of Britain's distant past.
Well said.
A quarter century on, it's possible to see in it the roots of the 1990s reality TV boom, from the glitter of Big Brother in 1999 to the historical study of the 1900 House in 1999, and especially the social experiment of Castaway in 2001.
Castaway? I don't remember that one.
I guess that was one where they just marooned some people.
Jesus,
on an
we
island.
Are horrible. We're just horrible. Everybody's like, God, can you imagine if gladiators existed today? Well, guess what? They do.
Yeah,
they do.
So you watched the link I sent you with the Where Are They Now?
I loved it.
What did you think of it? As someone who has lived that lifestyle.
First, the gravitas. The way they all talked about it was like they were in the Vietnam War together. You know? Just how, and they also, there was this self-importance. Like they almost referred to themselves as archaeologists, or like we were trying to do, and here's what, like that they're really bringing something to the history, to the man's knowledge base, and all they were doing was sitting around throwing mud on it's not that big of a deal. And the nudity, there was a lot of nudity, which it was very hippy dippy. And the Brits take stuff seriously. You know what I mean?
Right.
You just gotta go, come on, you guys, seriously?
It seemed to me when I was watching it, when you see the footage, it's like seeing home movies of Fleetwood Mac going camping. You know what I mean?
So
it's got
true.
like a Glastonbury Music Fest feel about it.
Yes, exactly. It's Woodstock. It's just a smaller version of Woodstock. It's what happened at Woodstock on the days when there wasn't any, before this concert started and people were just camping out and stuff.
I thought it was interesting too that John Percival, who was the director and producer of it, he made them build their own house.
Yes.
Their own big roundhouse.
Which was the most interesting part that they had to figure out. And that was impressive, really. Because that thing was huge.
It was huge. It was like 50 feet around or something like that.
And they were staying in tents up until then. So they were all like, we got to get it done. We got to get it done. And then they were so happy once they moved in. They were so much happier. And they were all sleeping in the same room, but they loved it.
Yeah, they were finally warm when they went. It's to say something, when they went back into the Iron Age house, they were actually better off than they were camping because
in their Coleman tents or whatever. Yes, it's true.
But again, it's like he made them build it, but they weren't building it like. I guess they were using old techniques, but they were still dressed in modern clothing at the time when they were.
Yeah, they hadn't moved into the clothing yet. It was very oddly put together. The whole thing, like they essentially they were transitioning, I guess, from modern stuff to Stone Age stuff. So they had them in tents and modern clothing as they built it. Then once they built it, they left the tents behind. And then once they started getting the food going, they left the clothes behind.
Right. Slowly. And apparently their clothing was all supplied by BBC costume department.
You're kidding.
They said in the book. Yeah.
Oh my God. That's great. So they were wearing costumes from some show about the Stone Age. That's fucking great. Oh my God. I love that.
So the British Film Institute also says, indeed, the series now seems less an examination of life in Britain circa 200 BC than of a hippie commune in the mid-1970s AD.
Totally agree.
An impression reinforced by the fact that it shares its title with the biggest hit of 70s prog rockers, Jethro Tull. And Jethro Tull has that song called Living in the Past.
Oh my God. Yes. Are they related?
No, they're not related at all.
Okay. But, God, Jethro Tull coming out there and playing But it does look like that. They're just hippies. They're just hippies living, and they love it. They're so into it, and they get so serious about it. And there's no sense of humor about any of it on any level.
You would have had a hard time.
Gravitas. It's just exhausting. That's what I have a problem with Survivor and some of the. It's just like, oh my God, you're curing cancer.
Yeah.
Like I get it. It's uncomfortable, but Jesus. Anyway.
I like your take on it of being kind of meta, kind of laughing about how absurd it is.
Yes, and then, can you believe you're doing this?
Right. And that's the thing. When I was watching or reading about the show and watching the documentary, I kept asking myself, why? Why did they have to be set in the Iron Age?
Yeah. You know what's the point? It's just this guy, that guy. That's the one that wasn't interviewed either.
I know.
That's the one I'm most interested in. The cult leader.
Well, he says in his book, because he came out in a book in 1980, 1981. And his book is called Living in the Past, A Journey to the Iron Age. And John Percival, who again was the creator and director and producer of the show, says, quote, I first had the idea for the Iron Age project sitting on a wet hillside on Exmoor, wet, hungry, and wretchedly uncomfortable. He continues, together with a small group of other enthusiasts for the simple life, I was taking part in an experiment for a television program to see if it was possible for people to live off the land with nothing to help them but a knife and a piece of string.
Oh, God.
So he had been on a TV show.
He'd already been on something. So he just kind of ripped off the format and put it in the Stone Age, in the Iron Age.
Well, that's what, he said,
Jesus.
our experiment only lasted 2 weeks because we were slowly starving to death.
Yeah,
and
that's
dying
the
of
thing.
exposure.
All of those things, all of those shows, everybody's hungry.
Yeah.
They're either hungry or they're drunk, depending on, like if you're the housewives, they're all drunk. and the survival type shows, they're all hungry. That's it.
How did you feel when you were like looking down there at the people on the show? Did you like empathize with them, or did you?
I know it was my own survival. I was just like, thank God I'm not down there. Thank God that my celebrity value is even lower than Robin Leach's, because I get to go stay in a nice hotel.
Yeah, it's the irony is that the lower you are, the
better
less
off
suffering there is.
Yeah, we all the workers and everybody, we all went home every night.
Well, that's what happened. So Percival says he then asked himself, would it be possible, I wondered, for modern people to readapt to those conditions, to rediscover the ancient skills and learn to prosper within the limits of a simple technology?
Right.
So he was on another show and
ripped it off.
It failed.
Show. Yeah.
It was miserable for 2 weeks, and then he came up with the idea, I'll have people do it for 13 months.
All my best ideas come when my butt is wet and I'm really hungry.
To me, again, it's so funny that he's like, okay, I want to do it again, but this time I'm not going to be down there. I'm going to be in a hotel and make these people.
I'm going to do what my bosses did.
Yeah. And so it's important when you watch this that you realize it's not an experiment to find out something new about our prehistoric Iron Age ancestors. Mm-hmm. It was an experiment to find out something about contemporary people and could they use simple technology to survive.
Right.
Basically.
Right.
And of course, I mean, as an anthropologist or an archaeologist, you would say even before they did this for 13 months, yes, of course they can, because people have been using simple technology.
We did it. Right. What is this testing? This is testing nothing. This is just having people sort of experience not even the Iron Age, because they're not really trained in, like, it would be passed on. It'd be a part of your culture, for generations. This is how we do it. And you would grow up as a kid doing it and making boots or whatever the fuck. This is a totally different thing. This is just pretending that you already know that you're in the Iron Age being. It's all the suffering without any of the benefits.
Right. And, back in the late 60s, 70s, there was a real revolution going on in archaeological theory. And prior to that time period, most of the things that hypotheses or whatever conclusions we drew about prehistory was just based on hunches. Like you'd look at a pot or you'd look at an axe and say, oh, they probably did this with it. But there was a movement called New Archaeology that came up in late 60s, early 70s. And New Archaeology was like, look, if we're going to be a science, we should be able to actually come up with hypotheses that can be tested. And so there was this movement to get away from this idea of like, oh, you just kind of do something and your hunch, or maybe, they probably did New Archaeology wanted to see like actual proof. Data. Conclusions. And so I'm sure when, as a new archaeologist at that time, like, what are you doing? You taught them, and then you had a backhoe come out to dig the ditch. All of your data is already like.
This is not an experiment of any kind.
Right.
This is just, I don't know what it is, but it ain't that.
But I'm sure when Percival was pitching it, especially with how serious the BBC was, I'm sure he was like, this is going to bring up new data about the Iron Age. This is a very serious show.
And that's how they all carried themselves. He convinced the cast. The cast was convinced they were doing something important.
Yeah, I know. That whole talk about it, like you mentioned, like gravitas. God, you look at it, it's like watching a ethnological like study of hunter-gatherers in Africa.
And the way they talk about it. Yes, I think we were able to prove, I think some of the accomplishments that we made, it's like, really? Okay.
Emily Nussbaum is a journalist, and she wrote a book called Cue the Sun, The Invention of Reality TV. And she describes living in the past as a charmingly earnest product, reflecting the era's vogue for do-it-yourself homesteading. And I would say earnest. Yeah, it's just so earnest about the whole thing.
Yes. And I loathe earnestness. I loathe it.
Me too. And the way they talk, like you say, it's so serious, but it's like, and it's shot like a National Geographic documentary. But there are a bunch of like middle class college graduates 2 hours outside of London. You know what I mean?
They're just miserable, and arguing. They start to get mad at each other, but they do it in that British way where you try to keep it cool. They never let it go, but you can tell they just are pissed off at each other.
And the British Film Institute says also, although the program makers went to great lengths to create an authentic Iron Age farm, drawing on expert archaeological advice, it's hard to overlook the fundamentally artificial nature of the exercise.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming Percival must have had some blowback from actual archologists. Anthropologists at the time.
I mean, look at us skewer him, and I'm a comedian. You think what somebody like you could do to him?
But he's, because he goes in his book, and he makes a real point in the book of saying emphatically, quote, "What we set out to do, and this has been much misunderstood, was to see if a group of quite ordinary young people, most of them born and brought up in towns, could learn to live successfully within the limits of an Iron Age technology." So he's trying to distance it a little bit, I think, in there.
I mean, it's good. It's entertaining, I guess, but that's about it.
And he says, again, I think he incorporated some of the criticism later. He said, quote, "It was clearly impossible to recapture the beliefs and superstitions, the skills and experience, the basic social attitudes of prehistoric people. And this was never our intention."
I don't know. One of my favorite parts of the documentary is where they build a giant man and set him on fire. Am I jumping ahead here?
No, the Wicker Man.
They decide out of nowhere to make to do a pagan.
Yeah.
Was that an actual pagan ceremony that had ever been?
The Celts were Julius Caesar in his War in Gaul, I think, or one of his books, wrote about the ancient Celts used to build a wicker man and put their enemy prisoners in there, and then light it on fire.
Whoa, Jesus! Well, they didn't put anybody in there, but they built this show. They built this enormous wicker man. It's so much work. I mean, it was giant. It was probably 3 stories. Is that? I mean, it's pretty big. They said at least a couple of stories.
Yeah, like I don't know.
It was
big. I don't know how big, but it was really hard for all of them to get it up.
They had to work their butts off to get it up. Then they light it on fire, and they are all so proud of themselves. and then they had a festival where instead of parsing out the food the way they'd been doing it, they just went gluttonous, a kind of a Dionysus kind of, and where they just ate as much as they want, and they made all of this wine. And they just got wasted. That was my favorite part.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's called the Beltane Festival. May 1st is a Druid festival in England, and people still make a wicker man. It's the same as Burning Man or Zozobra here in Santa Fe. Of like, it's supposed to, you burn it to burn away all the bad energy that you had from the year before.
Okay.
And have you ever seen the
fires?
Movie?
I love fires.
Have you ever seen the movie The Wicker Man?
No.
There's a movie from back in the 70s, which, again, this cop is sent to this island to investigate a missing woman. And it takes place in, I think the original book, it was in Cornwall, but in the movie, it takes place in Scotland. But it's called The Wicker Man. But again, the Wicker Man Festival plays into it.
Ooh, I'm going to check that out. Is it a good movie? Did you like it?
Yeah, it's really good. It's a guy who played the Equalizer. That guy.
Oh,
Remember that
yeah.
TV show? Yeah.
Yes. All right.
And
I'm going in.
Britt Eklund is in it with just gratuitous nudity in there. Like they're just shots of her being nude that don't fit into the story.
That don't mean anything, right? Well, that's just sort of the case with this show too.
I know. That's ultimately the British Film Institute says some viewers may have been more attracted to the shows by its participants' casual nudity than by any archaeological interest.
I wouldn't agree with that. I just don't think it was that hot.
Yeah.
They were all flippity floppy and hunchy. There wasn't.
Well, yeah, it was like a bunch of like when you see footage of like somebody like a woman on acid with her top off.
Yeah, it's just like
Woodstock,
Yeah. Nothing all that sexy about it.
Yeah.
A woman grinding, corn into wheat and naked.
But you talked about when they went out to try to trap fish.
Yes.
And they all took their clothes off.
Yeah.
And apparently that, like, at the time, in England, and, talk about repression or whatever. It was, in the 70s.
They went native real fast.
And the thing is, again, at that time, we didn't have yet Big Brother or any of the, kind of the framework for reality TV.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I'm sure when Percival was pitching it again, it was like, this is going to be very serious. We need to discover this. This is going to contribute to the Iron Age. And Emily Nussbaum in her book, she says that we did, though, have reality programming at that time. And she traces the history of reality television back to reality radio shows back in the 1930s.
What?
Yeah, and she says around 1930, disc jockeys began taking phone calls from listeners, and these unknowns did something the pros had never done. They confessed their secrets to the world.
Ah, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah, okay.
And she goes on, she paraphrases Gene Megan, who was an Associated Press writer back in the 40s. And Nussbaum says, the voice of a regular person quavering with amateurism slid open a psychological window, a space for authentic feeling, letting in a gust of spontaneity and helping the listeners to feel less alone.
Yes.
And I think that's
identification. Yeah.
And you were mentioning, and that I think that's what I was feeling when I was watching the show as I was going through divorce.
Yeah.
I was seeing these people who were completely miserable. I didn't really care about the Iron Age so much. I was just seeing these people be completely miserable.
Mm-hmm. And you weren't alone. Somebody else was miserable too, and maybe more miserable.
Right. They certainly look more miserable.
Oh God, they do. Yeah.
And Nussbaum goes in, she lists some of the radio show. Again, this wasn't just something that came up in the 1990s. This was something that goes back to radio. And there was a show called Queen for a Day, which was a radio show that she describes as a kind of upside down beauty pageant whose winner was the woman with the ugliest life.
Wow. And
contestants would describe how awful their lives were, and whoever had the worst life would win prizes.
Oh my God. Jesus. I hate us. Don't you hate us?
Yeah, I know.
I just hate us.
This is all on the radio, though. This is like
God.
And then there was a radio show that debuted in 1935 called A.L. Alexander's Goodwill Court. And that's where people came on and presented their legal disputes with each other.
The beginning of that, People's Court.
Right. People's Court, Judge Judy. That was all a radio show back in the 30s.
Amazing. I get that because I have you ever been to Small Claims Court?
No.
I mean, it's just fascinating. It's so yeah, it's worth it. If you ever get sued, show up
for a good time. If anything,
for a good time, yeah.
And she said Nussbaum also, she quotes in 1948 radio critic John Crosby, who wrote, quote, "From Mr. Alexander's program, we get life in the raw, without poetry, without art. The tabloid newspapers show us the undraped leg. The human misery program shows us the undraped heart. Listen to it fizz."
Mm-hmm. Jesus.
And so it was something new. It was that breath of I don't know, just something unscripted.
Right.
That even back on the radio, people felt and were attracted to.
Technology made it happen. I mean, there was no distance. It was right in your living room. It was right in your face.
And she talks about Nussbaum notes that even back in the 30s and 40s, people were complaining about how these reality audience participation shows were putting writers out of work. And which is the same thing like when I was writing in the late 90s in Hollywood. It was the same thing. We were still complaining about these shows were putting writers out of work.
And there's a big complaining right now because that's basically all they're picking up right now is reality.
And Nussbaum says even back in the 30s they realized, quote, to stage an audience participation show, all they needed was a host and some unpaid volunteers, plus a sponsor to offer up some prizes. At that price tag, even the jankiest content would turn on a fire hose of profit.
Exactly. And that's the reason for reality television. Any goofball can come up with some dumb idea on a napkin that tortures people. You hire non-union people to shoot it. You hire people who, are non-SAG people to be in it. And boom, you got more viewers than... Why wouldn't you do it? Why not? I don't see them, except for the, the ethical issue of torturing people for profit.
My wife and her roommate Julie actually won a dog on a reality show.
Really?
Yeah, their dog Edgar, that little white dog, Edgar Winter dog.
I sure do remember him.
They won him on a TV show called Who Gets the Dog, and this was right before I met her. And it was basically the premise was like, why should the people choose the dog? The dog should choose the people.
Okay,
you could see the
napkin. Yep. You're drunk at a bar. Hey, wait a minute. Write that down.
So the premise was 3 groups of people would go on the show, and the dog would spend the night with each of them, and then the dog would pick. There were some experts on there who would kind of watch the dog's behavior and see who the dog belonged with.
But then would it end with all 3 of them in a triangle in a park and the dog gets to pick which one?
You've seen it. You've seen it.
Oh, my God.
And so the contestants were a man and a woman who were engaged to be married, a couple with a young daughter, and then Mary and Julie. And unbeknownst to Mary and Julie, the producers had cut the show together so they looked like a lesbian couple.
Of course. Of course. so anybody who goes on a reality show and thinks you have any control over how you're going to be broadcast, no. No version of you that you think should be portrayed is going to be portrayed.
Yeah, and Mary says that they were surprised when people were commenting on it, because she and Julie never saw that.
Right. Yep.
And even when this all happened, and they won the dog, by the way, which fortunately the dog lucked out because they were both great dog people, and the dog eventually led a charmed life.
It worked out.
But I remember her showing me the video, because this had happened a couple months before I met Mary, and when we first started dating, she showed me the video of the show. And even I was thinking, why is this lesbian wanting to go out with me?
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
And not only it was very uncomfortable because I'm like, her partner's right over there watching the show. It's like, why am I here?
Oh my God.
But anyway, the dog picked them. He got a new home. And ultimately I got a new home.
Yeah, you did.
Once I realized she wasn't a lesbian.
Everybody got lucky. That's fantastic.
I also want to talk about Candid Camera, which was which some people think is the ancestor of all these prank shows like Jackass and Pranks.
I would say so. It definitely.
And Alan Funt started Candid Camera back in the 1940s. It was titled Candid Microphone when he first started out with it.
Wow.
And he would do pranks on the radio.
Yeah.
And Nussbaum says, in its own era, Funt's show was viewed not as a cute comedy, but as a deeply destabilizing experiment. It was a rude, even radical provocation to a culture that was grounded in repression.
Make fun of people for money.
Yeah.
Make them look like idiots.
And Alan Funt even apparently throughout his whole career argued that he was, quote, a student of human behavior, not a voyeur, but an observer, and even a kind of healer and educator, putting a mirror up to human nature.
No. That ain't it.
Yeah.
No.
But
you make people look like idiots, and we all laugh at them. That's what it is. But America's Funniest Home Video, all of that stuff. I would even argue that Jury Duty, which is a very funny show, but there's a guy in there that doesn't know it's a show.
Oh, really?
And he's on the jury.
Yeah.
And everybody else is a comedian, an improv comedian. And it's very funny, but ultimately it's at their expense. That's the hook of the show,
Right. I hate the shows where everybody is in on it except the one person. To me, at that point, you're like, you're not trying fair. Too hard.
Yeah.
You're trying too hard, dude.
Well, there was a famous show. Oh God, Joe, Ordinary Joe, something like that, where it was that kind of thing where, everybody else is an actor in it, and the person it doesn't know. And when it came out, the guy had a bit of a breakdown. He was and it's understandable. He thought they were all his friends, but they weren't. They were just making fun of him at his expense. And apparently on Jury Duty, the guy says he's fine with it, but I don't really buy that, and that doesn't make it okay.
Right.
It just seems like we're just so into causing pain for. Why are we so into that?
Well, it's Newsbound says that Funt ultimately realized, quote, it wasn't enough to spy on people to tape what they were saying. You also had to puncture their sense of normality, to confuse or infuriate them, to throw them off balance. Only then would their mask slip, letting you see a burst of authentic emotion.
Maybe that's it. Maybe you torture people because then it's real. That's the most real they can get when they're angry or hurt or whatever.
Yeah. And I think she even goes in, she talks about the guy who created Survivor. One thing he mentioned that he had said over and over that he'd like to see what happens when you put people under pressure and see them bond together. But it's exactly what you're saying. Is like you have to apply that pressure basically to people.
Well, there was a guy on I'm a Celebrity who was a psychiatrist or a shrink of some sort who was attached to the show. And I thought his job was to make sure that these people didn't, kind of just monitor it and make sure. That wasn't it at all. And I remember the day I learned it. His job was to find out the specific things that would push the buttons of those people. And I remember it came out, and I remember where I was. We were having lunch, all of us, the crew and everything, and it came out, and I looked at him, and I was just like dumbfounded. And I wanted out, man. I wanted out of that show. That's when I really realized what this was.
Right.
But
but you see, I mean, what are the ethics for a psychiatrist or a shrink to the ethics of that? You know what I mean?
None.
Yeah.
It was
all
crazy.
he wanted to be part of TV. He wanted to be part of TV ultimately.
Yeah. Everybody wants to, they want to be on the set and be doing something. Yeah.
I'm always, and I don't think it really matters, but obviously reality TV shows are completely scripted in a way.
Yes.
I think, or directed in a way.
Oh, like very much so. Now they've got it down to a science. Now they have segment producers for every segment. Everything is and then they'll find something that'll pop up, and then they'll stretch that into a storyline. It's all done that way. And anybody who thinks it isn't is they just don't know enough.
What was the show, The Swans, where they were supposed to do a bunch of work on them, and then they wouldn't see themselves until the final reveal or what. And I remember when I went to have my LASIK done in California, they had to bump me because all the swans were in there getting their LASIK done. And I remember walking in, all of them had their makeup, all like the bandages off. They were all looking at themselves, like the whole thing. So,
God, we're just horrible. When are we going to do the show where we just jettison people into the sun? You know what I mean?
Don't
just
know.
slingshot them right into the sun.
They talked about in his book. Percival talks about they had real debates, despite everything, debates about whether or not to let the couples keep using contraception.
Yeah,
because he said, we couldn't ethically allow somebody to have a baby on TV just for or get pregnant, and have a baby on TV just for a television show. And then the other one they had were about women using tampons. Like, well, we really debated whether or not if that would be authentic. It's like, you've already had them living in tents.
Yeah.
You brought in a back.
It's
like now you're going to, and they finally debated that, they could use, tampons if they wanted to or something. And it's just like, God. First of all, like, what would that TV show be like?
My God.
But I think what ultimately, despite all the criticisms and even my own feelings about living in the past, I don't think it was real science, but John Percival still writes in his book, quote, "At the same time, I believed and still believe that to get a group of volunteers actually living in the houses, depending on the crops and the livestock for their subsistence, relying on the tools for livelihood, would bring a new dimension to our understanding of prehistory."
Maybe some stuff. I don't know. I mean, I'd love to give them a little bit, like just a smidgen, but I mean, what are you testing?
I think deep down, I think he really did feel, and this is why I love the show.
Yeah.
And there's a part of me that loves the show, and I love the people that were on it because I think
so
they really
earnest.
did.
Yeah, they really thought they were. But isn't that the true darkness of it? They really think they're doing something of import, but really it's just a brash, blatant exploitation.
Yeah, it's just a TV show, ultimately.
It's just to sell shampoo.
And, apparently Newsbound notes that it actually drew 18 million viewers a week, which I think back in 1970 was pretty good, but there was probably only...
You take a poop on the toilet back in those days and, you get 18 million. I mean, come on. We had 3 channels.
I know, that was the whole thing. You had 3 channels. And one that could possibly give you some nudity. Of course you're going to.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, did you hear about that show on BBC? What? You've got to be kidding me.
The other thing that, I found very interesting about living in the past was Percival, I think, really wanted them to succeed. You know what I mean? And so he went to great pains to kind of diffuse conflict.
Yeah.
And so he cast people. They had already all gone camping. All the finalists had all gone camping beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And then they all voted who they would like to spend the next 13 months with. So the voting off had already taken place before the project even began.
Which is, amazing. Because you're picking a team because in the Stone Age, in the Iron Age, you didn't have that.
Right. And you saw how they still were all pissed off. Like the vegetarians were pissed off at the meat eaters, and then there was
the people with kids, the people without kids,
and apparently there was underlying they were a little upset. The people without kids were upset with the people with kids.
Yes.
Because those kids were taking up extra food, and there was a whole thing
and they left early. The parents with kids,
they did leave early.
They left early. I loved how they shot them putting on their sweater. There's a shot of a guy putting on a sweater, like he's like, "Oh wow, I haven't worn this in 13 months."
What is this thing?
Yeah, what is this? Gosh, it's odd.
Even though you've seen like cameramen coming, they're still like looking like they're like emerging out of the bush or something. And what did you make of the end where Percival, the producer, after this whole project, he burns down the village?
Weird. Weird. That was weird. I didn't understand it. I was like, that's weird, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he went a little crazy on this thing. I don't know.
But to me, there was sadness to it that I think this is, again, reveals he thought this was going to be a real scientific experiment and really add something.
But then why not study it? Why not deconstruct it in an archaeological way? And oh, look how they did it here.
Yeah,
the weirdest thing for me was even after that were the couple that showed how they made the mud at the very end. He's like,
yes. Like 20 years later.
20 years later, the guy's like, oh, this is how you do it. You mix mud and then you put excrement, like cow poop in there. Oh, God. And then you got to take your shoes off. It's the only way to do it. God, that was strange. He was so proud.
Living in like a really nice house, and he was still out there like jumping around in them. In her book, Newsbound calls reality television dirty documentary. And she says that reality TV shows, quote, merge documentary techniques with some more rigid, easily repeatable approach to storytelling, like the game show or the soap opera, the talent contest or the sports competition.
Right. Structure, format.
Right.
Yeah.
And she says, basically, you cast real people, then put a tight frame around them and squeeze.
Yes.
And I have to say, 13 months on a TV show would be a squeeze. I mean, it really is the ultimate TV show.
Well, especially because they're hungry.
Yeah.
They're hungry. I mean, that's the thing. It's just like, oh my God.
I also found it was interesting that, again, Percival wanted them to succeed, so he cast couples because he didn't want a bunch of young people out there trying to figure out having sex and trying to figure out their sexuality.
He rigged it.
And the thing is, though, that's what made all these shows that came afterward. They took Percival's model and threw out his things to
take out the married people, put in the single people, and add alcohol.
We want conflict. We want nudity, you know. And
I mean, it wasn't even Percival's idea to begin with. He ripped it off of another show, which is so perfect for reality. And then he ends up like hamstringing it. It's so funny. He just misses the mark.
It's so fascinating. But I will say, it did. I mean, when you see how it led to other shows, and then ultimately what reality TV shows do for us is like you like seeing other people more miserable than you are.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel less alone, I guess, is what we do.
Watching people. Yeah. Yeah. There you have it.
All right, John.
All right. Well, this is human number 2 signing off.
This is human number 1. Thank you for listening, everybody. A real quick shout out. I'm showing it on the camera here. Cue the Sun by Emily Nussbaum. If you're into reality television and just want to see where it comes from, it's a great book. Great title. Came out in 2024. I recommend that book. You know, living in the past, it did tell me we have to have more nudity in our show, John.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. I mean, I've been pantsless since day one, but I've got to go topless now.
We got to put hidden cameras around.
Yes, we need a low angle. Low angle.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much.
If you found this show interesting, please tell a friend about it. And don't forget to check out Watson & Company Socks, Puppies Not Piranhas on Etsy, and the Two Humans Cave Shop on Cafe Press. And
we want to give a shout out to Bianca, human number 1's dog who passed away. Great puppy, great doggy. She did a great job. She really
looked after me for years. Me and Mary both, and Franz, our other dog who passed away.
She was such a sweetie.
It's really been a hard couple of weeks, and
man, it's the worst. Everybody who's had a pet knows it's the worst. But she did it right. She did it. She did a good job being a dog.
And thank you for everybody who has commented and sent love and hearts and stuff on our Facebook. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. R.I.P. Bianca.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
All right. Love you guys. John, love you. Talk to you later. Thanks, John.
Bye.
Bye.